Thank you for listening to the South Dakota Network, a service of SDPB. Follow us on Twitter at SDNet for announcements about what's coming up.
It is 9 o'clock and you're welcome to start the meeting whenever the motion takes it.
Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. I will call the meeting to order on the South Dakota Department of Transportation Commission meeting Thursday, April 23, 2026. Gary, would you please call the roll?
Chris Brick.
Here.
Lynn Jensen is not joining. Jeff Karam.
Here.
Larry Nelson.
Here.
Don Roby.
Here.
Ron Rosenboom.
Here.
Rick Valerie.
Here.
Mike Valley is not joining. Austin Simons.
Here, we do have a quorum. Thank you. At this time, we will consider any conflicts of interest. Is there any commissioners that would like to declare a conflict of interest at this time? Hearing none, we will move on to the approval of the March 26, 2026 meeting minutes. We'll get a motion on that.
Roby moves approval.
We have a first by Roby.
Second. By
and
Valerie.
second by Valerie. Any comments, questions, or changes?
I have a comment. there's a typo on the front page. You'll note that it says March 26, 2025. That should be 2026.
We'll add that to the motion for approval. Gary, would you call the roll?
Frick,
Aye.
Karam,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rosenboom,
Aye.
Valerie,
Aye.
Simons.
Aye, motion carried, minutes approved. On to the April 9th, 2026 meeting minutes. Can we get a motion on that? Okay, Rosenboom moves approval.
Second.
Roby will second. Any questions or comments or changes? Okay, hearing none. Gary, would you please call the roll on that?
Frick,
Aye.
Karam,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rosenboom,
Aye.
Valerie,
Aye.
Simons.
Aye. Motion carries. April 9th, 2026 meeting minutes are approved. Next on the agenda, Carla Engel, legal counsel with Lincoln County Speed Zone Rule.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Carla Engel, Chief Legal Counsel. This is the time and place for consideration of amendments to the following administrative rule, 70-01-0244, Lincoln County Speed Zone Rule. The procedural rule, steps that have been taken so far regarding the proposed rule are as follows. Approval to proceed with rulemaking was received from Secretary Junt on March 24th, 2026. The date of the public hearing is of course today, April 23rd. The proposed rules and supporting documents were submitted to Legislative Research Council and the Bureau of Finance and Management on March 26th, 2026. Publication of the notice of public hearing occurred in the Sioux Falls Argus Leader, the Sioux Valley News, and the Pure Capital Journal on April 2nd, and in the Dakota Scout on April 3rd of 2026. On March 26, 2026, copies of the hearing notice and proposed rules were emailed or mailed to the individuals or entities who've requested notice of rulemaking. And the hearing notice and proposed rules were also mailed to the mayor and finance officer of Sioux Falls and the sheriff of Lincoln County on March 26th. Information about the rulemaking was also posted on DOT's website and on the OpenSD website on March 26th. On March 26 and April 14 and April 20, information about the hearing was posted on DOT's social media platforms, namely Facebook, X, which was formerly Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Regarding the actual rule changes that are being proposed, the department is proposing to reduce the speed limit on South Dakota Highway 115 around its intersection with South Veterans Parkway in Lincoln County. The current speed limit in that area is 55 miles per hour, but the department has determined that a reduced speed limit would be more appropriate and enhance safety. Specifically, the department is asking the commission to reduce the speed limit on Highway 115 in Lincoln County from 55 miles per hour to 45 miles per hour from a 0.1 miles south of the intersection with Veterans Parkway and then north to 85th Street, which is also known as 270th Street in Sioux Falls. We're also making some distance, changing some distance measurements to the nearest 1/10 of a mile, which is our current practice. Again, the purpose of the rule changes is to enhance safety. Currently, the speed limit on 115 is 55 miles per hour from a half a mile south of Lincoln County Road 110, also known as the Harrisburg Corner, all the way to 85th Street. But with the construction of Veterans Parkway and the development south of 85th Street, the department and the city of Sioux Falls believe a speed limit reduction is in order. To evaluate the speed limits, the department conducted 2 speed studies on Highway 115. The first study was on January 14, 2026, and was done in the area between Veterans Parkway and 85th Street. The 85th percentile speed was 47 miles per hour. The 50th percentile speed was 42 miles per hour. The 10-mile pace, which is the range, the 10-mile speed range that the most vehicles are traveling, that was 37 miles per hour to 46 miles per hour. and the average speed was 43 miles per hour. Due to the proximity of the traffic signal at the 85th Street intersection with Veterans Parkway, the department's speed setting software suggested a 40-mile-per-hour speed limit. And because of the surrounding urban context, the department's traffic engineer and the Speed Management Advisory Committee concurred with the 40-mile-per-hour speed limit. On February 6, 2026, the department conducted another speed study on Highway 115, this time between Veterans Parkway and County Road 106, which is to the south. It's also known as 271st Street. All data collected on this segment reflected higher speeds than on the other studied segment. The 85th percentile speed was 58 miles per hour, and the 50th percentile speed was 53 miles per hour. The 10-mile pace was 49 to 58 miles per hour, and the average speed was 53 miles per hour. Based on the 85th percentile speed, the roadway context, and the roadway type, the speed setting tool and the department's traffic engineer recommend keeping the speed limit at 55 miles per hour on this southerly segment. Highway Patrol and Sioux Falls Police Department officials concur with the speed zone change recommended by the department. We did receive one timely written comment, and that was received on April 19th. This comment was from the mayor of the city of Harrisburg, who supported the rule change. But he made particular note of the department's use of the 50th percentile speed in recommending a 40-mile-per-hour speed limit. He proposes using similar methodology on other segments of Highway 115. Legislative Research Council's changes to the proposed rules have all been incorporated into the rule before you. I would ask you to approve the changes as proposed by the department. I'll stand by for testimony by any other interested parties in support of or opposition to the proposed rule changes, and then I'll also be prepared to answer any questions from the commission.
Okay, thank you, Carla. Any questions from the commission or a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before you accept a motion, you should call for any other public testimony.
Okay.
In support or opposition to the rules.
Okay, is there anybody on the phone or in the room that would like to attest to this? Okay, hearing none. Commission, is there questions or comments? No? I'll start with one. North of 270th Street, do we know what the speed limit is there?
North of 270th Street,
Yeah, so we're
in
changing,
the city of Sioux Falls, I believe it's also 40 miles per hour.
that goes up
But I
to
can-
29.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
I can ask either Corey, who's on the line, who's our region traffic engineer, or our statewide traffic engineer if they can confirm.
Okay. Corey, are you on the line?
Hello, Corey Perry, Mitchell Region, traffic engineer.
Yeah, go ahead.
I believe it's 40 mile per hour to the north of 85th Street. It does change, I believe, to 35 mile per hour, but I don't know exactly how far north.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, Roby first for approval. Anybody a second?
Nelson second.
Nelson will second. Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, Carrie, would you please call the roll?
Brick?
Aye.
Brick?
Did you hear that?
Now I can hear you wanna try, give me an A again,
What?
just for good measure.
Okay. Hi, yep.
Thank you. Karam?
Hi.
Nelson?
Aye.
Roby?
Aye.
Rosenboom?
Aye.
Valerie?
Aye.
Simons?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
At this time, we will move on to public input. Is there anybody on the line that would like to address the commission? If so, please state your name and you will be recognized. Anybody in the room? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to secretary's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I've got a short report for you today. I know we're gonna spend hours on the next topic after this, but start with the federal side of the equation. And if you hadn't seen, our great news is that we were notified by USDOT that we were selected as a recipient of their competitive highway bridge program grant. The amount is $65 million, and that is for the Platte Winter Bridge replacement. Acronym for that grant is CHBP, and those were awarded to 14 projects in 12 states to fund bundled bridge replacement and rehabilitation projects. So one bridge that we bundled with this project was a Douglas County structure northwest of Armour on 280th Street. So great news for us. This grant program again is with USDOT. It really focuses on repairing and replacing bridges in the rural communities. Those would be defined as anything that has less than 115 individuals per square mile. But it is a great opportunity for us to now look at the Platte Winter Bridge. As I believe I had mentioned to you our last meeting, we also received a congressional directed spending, which is an earmark from Senator Thune and Senator Rounds, who secured that through the appropriations package. So now we believe we have sufficient funding to be able to move forward in letting the Platte Winter Bridge. We're looking at doing that late summer, early fall this year. So wonderful news for us on that. I don't know if there's any questions that you might have.
What's the total amount that we have for a current, total amount of dollars that we can currently?
So that would be, what do we got, 65, and I believe the other one was 25, so there is 90 million in those discretionary grants, and then we will utilize our normal formula funding for the rest of that. So
What is the total leverage?
again, somewhere in the ballpark of north of 200 million. But as you know, we've been putting in for these grants for 2 or 3 years, and so now this is great news for us to now look at getting this thing let. We're definitely due and prepared for that. The plans need to be just touched up a little bit, and away we go. On the state side, as you know, we were successful in getting the bill passed to waive our sovereign immunity. With that, on April 10th, I sent a letter to Federal Highway declaring our interest in what they call the Surface Transportation Project Delivery Program. And under this program, South Dakota DOT would assume responsibility for the compliance of the NEPA. In essence, we'd be taking over NEPA assignments for that federal environmental laws that pertain to that. So with that, we will start their process. I think I mentioned last month, we're looking at a year plus to physically go through all of that review, through that analysis. They eventually would sign off on us doing that. So I wanted to let you know we started that process and we're off and running. I wanted to remind you to put on your calendar September 22nd and 23rd. We will be in Sioux Falls again for your on the road meeting in September. Carrie will need to know who will be able to attend that so that she can get travel arrangements for you. So if you would get with her on that time frame. And then finally, before we move to the GFMP discussion, as you know, we have a committee, Hall of Honor committee, that looks at those individuals that have made a lasting, valuable, or unique contribution to South Dakota's air, highway, public transit, or rail transportation systems. So those nominations are due on May 22nd, and once we receive them, then the committee, which I chair, will go through all of those and then identify or review those to determine if anybody meets in their minds, to be selected to be inducted into the Transportation Hall of Honor. So if you've got a name, the forms are out on our webpage, or get with Carrie. She's kind of the secretary that worked with us on that. But again, those have to be in by May 22nd. Any questions on any of those things from this state side? All right, next on your agenda is consideration for funding for Department of Game Fish and Parks. As you know, we entered into an MOU with them back in 21, and as part of that was to provide, for you to consider providing them funding, $2.8 million on a yearly basis for the 5 years based on funding collector roads to the park systems. I joke with Secretary Roebling on a regular basis. The reason why his parks are doing so well is that we have great roads that go into and out of those. And I've been to other states, and I can truly say that they're not to the degree that we are. And I think that truly does limit people that participate in those outdoor activities. And so with that, you have a handout, and I would ask Secretary Roebling to come up and provide information and any questions that you might have relative to continuing on with this for another year with that funding on.
Alrighty, well, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Secretary John. My name is Kevin Roebling, Department Secretary at the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks. It's a pleasure to be here this morning and to talk about roads. Our mission within Game Fish and Parks is to serve and connect people and families to the outdoors. It's simple, but it really starts here. It starts with our park system and getting access to those parks and rec areas. And roads are a critical component to that. If any of you have a camper in this room, pulling a camper down a really pothole road, a road that is in poor condition is not any fun. It's hard on the equipment, it's hard on the vehicle, and it's hard on the little kid sitting in the back seat. So roads are a very critical component to ensuring we connect people and families to the outdoors, especially in these rec areas. So over the last 5 years, I do have a couple handouts. We have conducted projects in 32 different park areas and rec areas, encompassing about 200 miles of roads and 3 bridge replacements. So the impact of these dollars, the $2.8 million annually for the last 5 years, sum of $14 million, has really been impactful to our park system in general. We do have a really great distribution of how these funds impacted roads across the state within our state park system, the collector roads, not within, but the collector roads to the rec areas and state parks. So I want to turn your attention to the first map, which is the distribution of projects. And you can see here there's 32 dots on this map representing where these projects have occurred over the last 5 years. And why I'm kind of giving a summary to you today is because we are nearing the end of our 5-year agreement. The agreement expires June 30th of this year. Obviously, we're here to ask for an additional extension of 1 year, but I just wanted to highlight some of the great projects that you all approved when it comes to funding and that we did accomplish throughout the park system and throughout the state to better serve our citizens, to get them connected to the outdoor areas and rec areas that we have here in South Dakota. The second list here, the second handout, is actually a list of those projects by fiscal year. And I'll have Adam, our Planning and Development Director, Administrator, come up here and talk about the 26th list. However, these projects here on FY 22, 23, 24, and 25 are the completed projects that we've conducted through the last 4 years, in particular with those funds. Do these funds have a direct impact on outdoor recreational use in this state? Absolutely. Our vision within the department is to enhance the quality of life for current and future generations through the outdoors, and these dollars have done that. So first of all, thank you. Thank you for the 5-year contribution. This has been a phenomenal partnership. We appreciate it greatly. These dollars are going to good use, and I hope all of you have an opportunity to experience some of these dollars in action when you go into our state park and rec areas, our boat ramps. Anytime you are recreating in South Dakota, there's a likely chance that these dollars have impacted those opportunities for access some way, shape, or form. So with that, I will take any questions at this time with the past projects, and then I'm going to have Adam come up and just describe a little bit about FY 26, what we are currently under construction on, and then the 1-year extension for FY 27. We would need your approval to proceed with the 1-year extension. I understand that the Federal Highway Fund, there's some uncertainty there. I would love to get into a longer agreement, but 1-year extension would be great as well. So with that, I will turn it over to Adam. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, Secretary Junt, my name's Adam Kloss. I'm the Planning and Development Administrator for the Parks Division. And before you today, we have a couple of different documents. As Secretary Junt referenced, the agreement started in 2021, or memorandum of understanding. And within that memorandum, there was two real requirements from the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks. One is an annual report. So the first item that you should have is an annual report that explains kind of an overview of what we had this past year. Just want to really highlight a couple of things within that annual report that this last year we were able to improve approximately 53 miles of collector roads with cooperation with local township and county governments. And then there's also approximately 13 miles that were done within park and recreation properties that also were deemed eligible for the collector road funding. One other thing I'd like to highlight is that the primary focus of these funds is to again enhance the collector roads, or connecting people from the state highway system and leading into the recreation areas. But outside of that, the department is very committed to also spending significant dollars of our capital development budget towards maintaining the infrastructure that's within our park system and our road systems. And so this annual report highlights that in FY27, in addition to the $2.8 million that we're requesting for collector road assistance, we've got $7.1 million of our own money tied to other road projects that take care of our other infrastructure within it, which is, again, if you combine those two numbers, that's approximately 60% of my capital development budget on an annual basis. And so really wanted to highlight that. The second part of that requirement from the memorandum of understanding is also providing an update of where we are at with FY26. We're in the current FY26 year, and in attachment A, I've got a list of those projects that the top portion of the list has the projects that we've already finished and completed and submitted reimbursement for. And then we've got some ongoing projects that we're finishing up this spring that we will be committed to getting our request in for reimbursement prior to June 1st, and so that we have plenty of time for both agencies to get things done before the end of the state fiscal year. Furthermore, with that attachment, on the second page of the attachment, we've got the projected projects for FY27. Secretary Roebling had mentioned that we're really, again, looking for approval from this commission on, again, a $2.8 million for FY27. In the top portion of that attachment, I've got what we have in our capital development budget as the slated projects to accomplish with those $2.8 million. A couple of highlights in there. The Lake Thompson Recreation Area main entrance road that comes in. We're working with, it's a shared partnership with a couple of different townships there. It's a township road. Working with them on a full depth reclamation and a new hard surfacing for access into that recreation area. And one other highlight, we're also working with Marshall County on replacing some really bad sections of road up there by Fort Sisseton State Park. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but in addition to that funding list for the $2.8 million, as Secretary Junt, I think, could attest to, that sometimes we have projects that come in under budget, or some things happen where we have to shift some resources. And so we also then plan for alternate projects that we can have shelf ready, that we can plug and play in the instance that we have projects that come in under budget, or we have some kind of outside influencing factors that change the way that we want to do it. And so I wanted to also highlight those projects that we have in the hopper, again, to try to maximize use of the funding and get it done and get the expenses reimbursed before the end of the fiscal year. So with that, I would stand by for any questions if you guys have any.
Mr. Chairman, before we do it, just to clarify for you folks, you're not approving the specific projects, okay? So you're just providing the funding, and their commission is the one to identify and determine where the fundings that you provide to them are going to be expended upon. So I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page with that. Thank you.
So just to clarify also on top of that attachment, well, it's an A, I guess, but this is all funded, correct? This is just requests?
This is where they're planning on spending the monies for last year that you've already approved. But some of these have not came in, so that's why you see no dollar value there. Is that correct?
That's correct. The first page of the attachment, yes, we've got the ones that we've already submitted for reimbursement requests that were approved in FY26, and then we still have some outstanding ones that we'll be submitting before the end of the state fiscal year for 26. And then the second part of that is then requesting the 2.8 million for FY '27.
Right, so that's our,
Correct.
what we act upon. Correct,
Of the
is
two
future
point,
year.
of the 2.8
Yes.
million
Okay.
for this.
Clarify.
Yep.
Okay, Ms. Valerie, go ahead. Or
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one quick question. I see you have 3 bridges that are in kind of poor condition. Where are they located?
Through the chair?
Go ahead.
Yes, we have replaced 3 bridges within the last 5 years that were rated as poor condition, and so we've only got a couple left that are in poor condition, and we're working on those as part of the potential plan to be in future projects to get those taken care of.
So there's 3 that you're looking to.
There's additional 2 of them that are in poor condition that we're looking at, but 3 of them have already been replaced with this program over the past 5 years.
So, Mr. Chairman, 5 total, 3 done, 2 left to go.
If I'm reading that wrong, it says the department currently has 17 structures, 3 rated in poor condition. So I'm reading that wrong. This is what you've accomplished.
Yeah, through the chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so, the condition rating doesn't change until the Department of Transportation staff go in and actually change it on the NBI, the National Bridge Inventory List,
do
and
the
so when that's updated, it will get updated at that time, so that's a reflection of what the NBI currently states.
Understand. Thank you.
And the 3 bridge locations were in Custer State Park that
Okay.
were replaced.
Any other questions? Would look for a motion.
I will make a motion to approve a 1-year extension and the FY '27
At
and the FY '27 what?
the $2.8 million.
At the 2.8 million. That's where I was going.
Sorry.
Okay, do we have a first for Commissioner Valerie? Second?
Second.
Robiel, second. Any other questions or comments? If not, Carrie, would you call the roll?
Brick,
Aye.
Harum,
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Roby.
Aye.
Rosenboom.
Aye.
Valerie.
Aye.
Simons.
Aye, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, and I think the point was very valid, is we're still looking for a transportation bill from Congress to look to see what we're gonna receive for funding with federal dollars here the next 5 years. That really needs to be identified, not only, especially with our own state system and what we're gonna have available to be able to match with the federal funds as well as some of the programs that we do. But again, I know you guys are very appreciative. In my mind, these are really immensely helping our park systems and getting people in and out of that. And I also appreciate your willingness to help maintain and keep these roads up. As you saw, it takes a lot of effort, and it takes time to plan, get these prepared and ready to go. So I wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just the last item for informational items for incentives and disincentives that we're gonna do a presentation on. Since GFP took so long, we're not gonna be able to do that. No, we just need to defer that till next month, cause we're not prepared for that, so thanks, guys. Yep, so with that, yeah, I'll wanna just make sure that everybody was aware of how to defer that.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have Craig Smith, Director of Operations.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Craig Smith, Director of Operations. I have the 2 items I'll address today. The first is informational. The attachment number 5 is the monthly construction change order report. This month there were 15 CCOs that were either an increase or decrease of 100,000 or a change of more than 25%. And we did have a couple, 2 of those that were over the 25%. I'll talk maybe just about a few of the CCOs of note. CCO number 2 was a 60% increase on crack sealing. Maybe not a large dollar amount, but a large percentage. The crack seal, that's paid by the pound, and somewhat difficult with more cracks appearing or knowing exactly how many pounds are going to be needed was the reason for that one. The second one, CCO number 5, was an ER project with some of the flood repairs. and was one that we had an increase over 25%, and that was due to some changes in riprap that were needed once we were out in the field. And then the last one I'll just mention is CCO number 9 was an increase over 25%, and that was related to some railroad crossing work that was done where they increased some of the asphalt to improve the ride, and then a little bit of work on some detour signing on that project. So with that, I'll entertain any questions on the CCO report.
Okay, any questions for Craig? Okay, hearing none. Craig,
All right,
back to you.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next one I will be asking for consideration. It is the Fallen Heroes Bridge Program, and the department is proud to collaborate with the Department of Veterans Affairs through the Fallen Heroes Bridge Dedication Program. This program honors and remembers our South Dakota fallen heroes by naming bridges on our state highway system for those that were either killed or missing in action while defending our country in an armed conflict. The DOT does have a memorandum of understanding with Veterans Affairs on this annual process to honor these heroes. Each year, Department of Veterans Affairs, they will receive applications for consideration, and then they provide the names and recommend potential bridge locations to the department. Our staff reviews primarily the bridge locations to see if that bridge is available. If not, we will work with them through Department of Veterans Affairs to find appropriate bridge locations to be considered. If this is approved by the commission, then the Department of Veterans Affairs, they will work with families, DOT, the governor's office, and schedule the dedication ceremonies, as well as provide signs to DOT, and then DOT, we will install and maintain those signs going forward. In your handout, you'll see that this year we have 18 fallen heroes along with bridge locations proposed. One thing to note on those, you'll see 6 of them are noted with an asterisk. Those will be a combined dedication ceremony is what is proposed. So with that, I would ask the commission's consideration and approval to name these 18 bridges in honor of these fallen heroes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Craig. All right, to the commission. The recommendation is to approve 18 veterans for the 18 bridges. Is there a motion, or can we get a motion on the table?
Rosenboom, move approval.
Rosenboom for approval. We have a second.
I'll second.
Roby will second. Is there any comments or questions? Roby?
Just a question on the regional one, that's gonna be kind of a big event, where's that one gonna be held?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know that. I believe we will get all those locations, and Carrie will share those with the commission as we get those. I believe in the past they've done that in Sioux Falls, but I don't know that for where this year's planned is at.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, Carrie, would you please call the roll?
Britt,
Aye.
Karen, Karen, Nelson,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rosenboom,
Aye.
Valerie,
Aye.
Simons.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Craig. Anything else?
Thank you. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, Mike Beam, Director of Planning and Engineering.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Just 2 items for your consideration. Which is bid awards. There will actually be 2 actions on that, and then the STIP revisions. Mr. Wadstrom will handle the bid awards, and Mr. Leichtman for the revisions. Sam?
Morning, Chairman, the Commission. Sam Weisgram with the Office of Project Development, presenting the bid results and recommendations. The first item I'd like to take under consideration is we'll move back to the April 1st bid opening. We took action on all projects back at the last commission with the exception of project number 4. At this time, we've completed our review of the bid for project number 4 from the April 1st bid opening and have a recommendation prepared for you. So for project number 4, AGE Corporation was the Aztec low bidder. Their bid was $3,750,000, which is $1,958,000, or 34.3% below our engineer's estimate of $5.7 million. This project is a pipe repair project on highways 14 and 63 near Midland. We have completed our review of the bids, and we don't have any significant concerns with the bid pricing received. And of course, we did get the 5 competitive bids for the contract. Based on our review of the project, we are recommending approval of the award of this contract.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Recommendation is for approval on attachment 6A, item number 4. And the chair get a motion.
So move.
Valerie will move for approval. Any second?
Rosenboom will second.
Okay, Rosenblum will second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Carrie, would you please call the roll?
Frick,
Aye.
Jap, Karen, Nelson,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rosenboom,
Aye.
Valerie,
Aye.
Simons.
Aye. Motion carries. Sam, before you move forward, I need to
Number 11.
declare a conflict on number 11. Not sure how I missed that. You probably have it already set aside, huh?
We do.
I figured. Thank you. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. So moving to the April 15th bid opening. That bid opening consisted of 14 contracts. A total of 61 bids were received. The low bids totaled $33,367,000, which was $4,719,000, or 12.4% below our engineer's estimate of $38,087,000. We have completed our review of the bids for the April 15th bid opening and have 3 recommendations for you. The first recommendation involves projects 1 through 9 and projects 12 through 14. So projects 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, and 13 were all within 10% of our engineer's estimate. Projects 1, 2, 5, 6, 12, and 14 were all more than 10% below our engineer's estimate. Based on our review of the bids, we are recommending approval of the award of these contracts.
Okay, recommendation on attachment 6B from DOT is projects 1 through 9 and 12 through 14. Can the chair get a motion?
Move approval.
Roby will move for approval. Is there a second?
Frick will second.
Frick will second. Okay, any other questions or comments? Carrie, would you please call the roll?
Frick,
Aye.
Aram, Nelson,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rosenboom,
Aye.
Valerie,
Aye.
Simons.
Aye. Motion carries. Back to you, Sam.
Thank you. The next recommendation will be for project number 10. Bituminous Paving was the low bidder of 3 bids for this project. Their bid was $1,059,000, which is $112,000 or 11.9% above our engineer's estimate of $946,000. This project consists of asphalt surface treatments on various routes in the Sioux Falls area. Through the review of the bids received, we do feel the low bid is justifiable for the work being completed. And as a result, we are recommending approval of the award of this contract.
Okay, recommendation for item number 10 is for approval. Can we get a motion?
Frick will make a motion
Rick will first.
to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roby will second. Any questions? You guys are making this easy on Sam today. Except for me. All right. Carrie, would you please call the roll?
Frick,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rosenboom,
Aye.
Valerie,
Aye.
Simons.
Aye. Motion carries. Commissioner Roby, would you chair this one? Okay.
Okay, next we have, well, Sam, you're up.
All right. Last project for your consideration with the April 15th letting is project 11. Jensen Rock and Sand was the low bidder of 3 bids for this project. Their bid was $3,815,000, which is $256,000 or 6.3% below the engineer's estimate of $4,072,000. This project consists of asphalt surface treatments on various routes within the Aberdeen area. In consideration of the favorable bid results, we are recommending approval of the award of this contract.
Recommendations to approve project number 11. Can I get a motion, please?
Nelson moves.
Larry moves. Anybody for second?
Rosenbaum will second.
Ron seconds. Any questions or discussion on project number 11? Seeing none. Carrie, please call the roll.
Rick,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Rosenboom,
Aye.
Valerie,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
You.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Mark Leichman, Program Manager for Project Development Office. I'm presenting the STIP revisions, attachment number 7. There's one item for your consideration. Revision 26-022. This revision will allow the department to purchase 8 traffic monitoring cameras to be used by traffic inventory management and the region traffic. These cameras would improve safety for DOT staff. There'd be cameras that would be set up on each side of the road in lieu of putting down the tubes during live traffic, which is the current method. The cameras will also be able to help with intersection studies that the DOT often consults out to monitor or to collect data for intersection movements, which will also provide a cost savings moving forward. We generally collect the data beginning in August, so it's preferred that this be an FY26 project. It's estimated at $62,000, and with that, 90% it would be federal funded.
Okay, recommendation is for approval for revision 26-022. The chair get any motion?
Rosenbaum will move approval, but I also have a question.
Okay.
Are these cameras monitored, live, while it's happening, while traffic's happening?
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe it is. They'll have video and stuff like that, but the cameras also can collect or process the data. So they'll do the counting for you.
Mr. Valerie?
Are they scattered throughout the state, and are they permanent, or do they get movable?
They're movable. So, yeah. Again, they're gonna replace or supplement the traffic tubes that are out there collecting data. And then when we do planning studies, sometimes we have to get intersection counts and stuff like that. So they be mounted at the intersection, and it'll do counting of the traffic movements through the intersection.
Sure, if I could maybe add to that, yeah, they're kind of like game cameras, if you're familiar with game cameras, but they operate on a continual loop. They don't have the resolution a game camera would have either, so it's not as if it's taking, you can see pictures of people's faces or anything like that. It's really used to help us determine the types of trucks. We break them up by number of axles and things of that nature. And the reason we're 90% on this one is we've also heard concerns from folks that there's an unsafe situation out there, and we look at the crash data and there's no crashes associated with it. But they acknowledge there's a lot of close calls, but we don't know what the close call is. Is it somebody stopping at the intersection, pulling out in front, or what is it? So we're also gonna use this to help in some of those locations where we have heard of safety concerns to see what is happening out there, to again help to try to prevent a crash before they occur, so we don't have to mitigate it then. That's why we're at 90% on this one. Apologize for too much information.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, the federal funds are safety funds.
So then, basically, at any given time, you can have 4 points that you're studying, is that correct?
Yes.
Cause you have to have
Two cameras at each location.
So then will this be used in place of the tubes? Will we get rid of those, or will we still use them too?
I believe that they're still using the tubes in some locations, so.
We'll still use the tubes, and we also have the old board count where somebody sits there and counts the vehicles that come through and the turning movements and things of that nature. This just allows us to be more flexible with the time that we can be out there, and of course, we have more opportunities to get different locations and collect that data. And our team can go through and look at the data as it's collected, and pull off the card, or they could do it in a slow time during the year, perhaps in the winter when they couldn't be doing other things out there in traffic county, they can go through and calculate some of that. So again, better use of resources and allows us to get more data that we can make good decisions on, give us some good data.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion for approval on the floor. Commissioner Rosenboom, do we have a second?
Oh, second.
Valerie will second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Carrie, would you call the roll?
Craig?
Aye.
Nelson?
Aye.
Roby?
Aye.
Rosenboom?
Aye.
Valerie?
Aye.
Simons?
Aye, motion carries. Back to you, Mr. Lightfoot.
The other tour information, I'll just touch on revision 26 SC 14. Quite a bit of increase in cost, and the reason for that is that why we scoped it, we thought there'd be 150 miles that would do center line rubble stripes, and we increased that to about 250 miles. So just the information, average cost per mile is a little over 5,000 to add the rumble stripes. You also have to do some repainting too.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it.
That's it, Mr. Chair. I did want to mention relative to your revision that you just approved. We have a research review board that within the DOT, and it's composed of not only DOT staff, but we have a county superintendent that's part of that. We have a municipality, city engineer in Sioux Falls, as well as the Board of Regents has an individual. And as part of that body, we look at research in all different manners. And one of the projects that we just approved yesterday was in this topic relative to traffic and how we physically collect this. And we approved a project, I think it was in the $200,000 range, to go out and see what others are doing from an industry standpoint, as well as how we can do a better job using that technology, just like we're doing what you just approved, to pick up these and hopefully to get our people out of the traffic as they're installing these tubes. They physically gotta go across the lane, and some of these roads have a lot of traffic and people don't slow down and everything else, and so we'll see where that gets us. But I thank you for approving this one to get us a jump start on doing some of that, and in the end, I think we'll probably be doing a lot more of that when it's all said and done with. But I don't know if you'd ever want to have, again, it's not part of what your guys' area of responsibility or authority is, but it's something that we use those federal funds on, SPR, state planning and research funds, to be able to physically do all of this research that we do. And we typically have 5 to 10 projects a year that come through other entities, including ourselves. It's not only for state projects and looking at that, we've done a number of research projects on counties. One of the main things that came out of that was a gravel road program that LTAP provides expertise and education and training for our counties and local governments. So might be something to put on the list for a later informative presentation on what our SPR funds and all of that. So
It would be kinda cool to see the traffic cams down the road, have a informational at the end and just kinda see how that's collected and used. And we preach safety an awful lot, and that's, which is good, and I think that would give us a pretty good idea of what you guys do every day to try to do that.
Talk and walk the walk.
There you go. Yep, Commissioner Roby?
SPR safety and what?
State planning and research funds.
State planning and research.
So they're used for all the planning things that we do through Mark's program, as well as then the research program that a gentleman by the name of Thad Bauer, he has research and he has traffic inventory management under him. We combined that office a number of years ago into one. That's part of the collection of this, as well as the road profiler that we go out and collect all of this information to help us make decisions relative to what we have for our conditions of road, how that's matching our curves from a life cycle cost analysis or life period, and then what treatment needs to be done once all said and done with. So, and Mr. Chairman, that's all we have on the agenda for you today. I know we're a little early, but Carla would shoot me if I went off on something else that was not on the agenda.
Hands tired. Such a long secretary report today.
Well,
You're blaming it
and-
on game fish.
With that, and it could have probably been included in my secretary report, and we can add that since we've got a little time. So myself, Mike and Craig was in Georgia last week, which is our annual national transportation meeting. It's called AASHTO, American Association of State Highways and Transportation Officials. And part of that is a policy group that we're a part of, and again, trying to see when Congress might put something out. Again, we've talked about the T&I committee, and from what we're hearing, and we're knocking on wood, that they do get their bill out here next week or the following week. And with that, at least provide us a much greater understanding, not only what they're planning on funding, but how much money they're proposing. Now, that might not coincide with the Senate whatsoever, but from what we're hearing, they're not really as favorable, but they actually will get both bills out before the end of the federal fiscal year. So we may likely end up with a continuing resolution when it's all said. I know there's some members, and I think our two senators with Thune and Rounds would love to see that bill get passed and happen before September 30th. But again, it's not looking quite as favorable as it did 2 months ago. So, and again, that eventually rolls into our STIP. Mike and team has, again, we just use the best information we have, which is historically what we receive for increases in the federal funds. If they do a continuing resolution, and as well as the appropriation that gets extended, it'll be at this current year's fiscal fund amount. So there will not be an increase until they pass that appropriations package. So wait and see.
Yep.
They haven't failed us yet, so I think they'll eventually come through. But when that time it happened, your guys' crystal ball is probably as good as mine. And I think everything else construction-wise with the mild spring we've had so far, we're doing well. I don't know if Craig is still on, but projects are moving along. This is National Work Zone Awareness Week, and so we did that campaign, and it ends to Friday. But it's not the only time we should be work zone awareness and trying to maintain safe environments with that. So.
All right, thank you. Next scheduled meeting is Friday, May 15th, 9 a.m. via conference call. With that, anybody have anything else? We stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Commissioners,
You are listening to South Dakota Public Broadcasting's live webcast service on the South Dakota Network. More information at sd.net. Thank you for listening to the South Dakota Network, a service of SDPB. Links to live events and their archives are available at sd.net. Thank you for listening to the South Dakota Network, a service of SDPB. Follow us on Twitter at SDNet for announcements about what's coming up. Thank you for listening to the South Dakota Network, a service of SDPB. Follow us on Twitter at SDNet for announcements about what's coming up. Thank you for listening to the South Dakota Network, a service of SDPB. Download the SDNet app to your mobile device and listen wherever you are. Thank you for listening to the South Dakota Network, a service of South Dakota Public Broadcasting. Links to live events and their archives are available at sd.net. You are listening to South Dakota Public Broadcasting's live webcast service on the South Dakota Network. More information at sd.net. Thank you for listening to the South Dakota Network, a service of SDPB. Links to live events and their archives are available at sd.net. Thank you for listening to the South Dakota Network, a service of South Dakota Public Broadcasting. Links to live events and their archives are available at sd.net. You are listening to South Dakota Public Broadcasting's live webcast service on the South Dakota Network. More information at sd.net. Thank you for listening to the South Dakota Network, a service of SDPB. Links to live events and their archives are available at sd.net. Thank you for listening to the South Dakota Network, a service of SDPB. Follow us on Twitter at SDNet for announcements about what's coming up.
Thank you.